Wearing a striped shirt that makes me look fatter, as if it wasn't fat enough already, right? Interesting enough, I did a live stream yesterday, and a couple people brought up a topic, and everybody wanted to talk about that topic. And interesting enough, I've written several articles on that. A couple of them are available. I'll put a link to the article below. It's called The Logic and Metaphysics of Ghosts, and it's from the premise of Plato. And also to those are superstitious old folks, you know, we don't, but the funny thing is, and I'm not interested in what anybody believes, which of course is an interesting word that always makes me laugh, is that I'm only interested in what's, you know, logical and follows wisdom itself. And people always say, well, I don't believe in. Well, who cares what you believe in? I don't care what anybody believes in. It doesn't make any difference. I'm talking about a belief system, a dogma. This and nobody is what they believe. And that, of course, is the reason for 99.9% of the world's strife and misery and war and whatnot. Don't care what I don't believe in. Well, who cares? Don't care what you believe in. Let's follow, and I always find it funny, like when religious, and I'm not interested in any religion, by the way, religious people like Christians or anybody does this, I don't believe in God. I was like, aren't you a Christian? Well, yeah, I am. I was like, well, you know, there's like, I forget how many occurrences there are, forgive me, I think there's like 150, there might be 200 and some mentions of ghost, and I don't mean like the Holy Ghost in the Bible. It's like, how do you think you're a Christian? You don't actually acknowledge ghosts. And I'm going to tell you something really, really funny. It's kind of fascinating. Just bear with me for just a second. By the way, the link to my article that I wrote on the logic and metaphysics of ghosts is in the link below. And I'll be telling you what people said 20, 30 years ago and how wrong they are today. But when people say that well, I don't think ghosts exist, to me, I just, not only do I laugh my butt off without even knowing, you know, what sort of dogma that they were brought up in, but because that's completely irrelevant. I say, so you think that beings exist, and of course beings are the consubstantiality of matter and spirit, i.e. the psychophysical, i.e. the empirical, i.e. the persona non grata, and spirit. So we could say Latin, spiritus sanctum, we could use the Greek, you could use the word nous, we could use the Sanskrit term atman, we could use the Pali term atan, or we can use the word chit. Chitta, by the way, is the Pali term exactly the same in ancient Greek, which is nous. So you believe in the consubstantiality of matter and spirit, but you don't actually believe in a disembodied being, a being that is actually separate from the psychophysical. So in other words, empirical being exists, that, you know, that psychophysical entity you see in the mirror, but you're the same person that believes in a soul, but you don't actually believe it. I just don't know how people have never actually questioned some of their own illogical nonsense. I use that word lightly. I wanted to use another word. It's a lot more harsh, but I'm not going to use. That is as completely ignorant and unintelligent and unwise as if someone who had 5 brain cells said something as unintelligent as, well, I believe in the radio and the signal that the radio broadcasts, but I don't believe in the signal. I said, well, how could you think something that incredibly unintelligent, misinformed, unwise, and well, there's the radio. You put some batteries in it, and you turn it on. You get a signal. You might hear Tina Turner, but so there's the radio, and then there's the broadcast, but there's no signal. In other words, if I smash the radio, then you can't have a disembodied signal. Is that what you're saying to me? You're the same person, not meaning you. You're the same person as, I don't believe in ghosts. I love it when people say that. I don't believe in ghosts. Well, who cares what you believe in? How can people be so unintelligent? So, okay, let's stick with that for a second, like I'm talking to someone else I've talked to many times before. So you don't believe in ghosts? Yeah, that's right, I don't believe in ghosts. So, do you believe in radio Well, yeah, of course I do. I got a radio. I play it all the time. I listen to NPR and classical music. Well, that's great. So there's no signal outside of the radio itself. You know, the actual constituent components of the antenna and the two. Well, you know, I never thought about it that way. How can people, and they always use the same, I don't believe in. Look, don't care what you believe in. Let's not talk about what you believe or feel or think. Let's talk about what's logical, what makes common sense. Is a being an animate being? Yes, it is. And what about the soul? Well, and of course, if you actually are talking to a metaphysical atheist, which is what a true atheist is, by the way. True atheism, by the way, and the term atheos, as first established in Philebus 29d of the works of Plato, has nothing to do with the denial of God. It actually has to do with the denial of metaphysical substrates. In other words, there's a sock puppet but no hand underneath. There's a radio but no signal. That's what it's called. It's called metaphysical atheism. It completely denies metaphysical substrates like the soul, the agathon, i.e. the absolute, anything that actually underlies mere phenomena. True atheism is a radical, and it is radical. A radical belief, and it is a religion by its own definition, denotatively, if we actually apply true metaphysics to it, because it's not a metaphysical position, it's not a logical position, or is it a wise position. It denies ontological subjects that are under phenomena. They only posit phenomena. So, and then I'm not getting into, going on the train of atheism here, but they'll actually poke their finger in the eye of XYZ religion, but they themselves, at their very core, a true atheist, which is a metaphysical atheist, says that all beauty that we have in nature is random happenstance and is nihil ex nihilo, from naught comes naught. In other words, it was just this one miracle at the beginning of everything, just like energy popped. Where'd the energy come from? Well, don't know, just... So they themselves actually posit and cleave to a belief system that is illogical, insensible. In other words, leaving God completely out of the picture when you actually strike to the core foundation of atheism. The core, the absolute concrete bottom basement of it. They'll never say this, but they posit to themselves, just grant us this one miracle of energy manifestation from nowhere and from nothing. It's completely nonsensical. But getting on to something that enormous amount of people, because I've always been a metaphysician, 20, 30 plus years ago, it's been going on for a lot longer than that. And this is very, very funny, and it's also too undeniable. People that were materialists and soul-denying nihilists, they said, well, there's these crazy belief systems like ghosts and other stuff, and, when we develop, humanity develops in another decade or two, this is what they said 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, we will be free. Science, because science to them is actually religion. That is a religion. They actually made a religion out of science. Now, true science from Aristotelian Platonic position, Pythagorean position, is the quest for truth. But they made a religion out of it. Well, and this is what an enormous amount of people said, and it's true if you've been on this earth for like 30, 40 plus years. They've said this, because I kept hearing it over and over again from all these pontificating academicians. Yes, they said, well, with technology growing at a rapid pace, humanity will completely dispel itself of notions of blah, 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 and ghosts. But ironically enough, and it's not ironic at all, the exact opposite has happened. Do you know why the exact opposite has happened? Pause for a second and think about that. Not only were these people, and there were countless people that said this, not only were they proven wrong, they were proven 100% wrong, because while technology did advance, exactly like they said, we got supercomputers now and all sorts of the reason why they were proven wrong is because now, instead of being radically rare and radically expensive, it's radically common and radically inexpensive trans-spectral photography and videography equipment, Tri-field meters used to be expensive. Now you can get them for like $50. Recording devices, near-infrared, far-infrared recording, full-spectrum recording, UV and or full-spectrum recording. So what's happened is with the flourishment of technology, yeah, instead of proving this stuff, to be just like some sort of fairy tale, like, only like, backward Neanderthals thousands of years ago believed in garbage like ghosts. This is what they said. And with the advent of technology, human beings will dispel themselves of such silliness. And the exact opposite happened, because now any Poindexter with $200 could buy a full spectrum camera. You could actually go on eBay and find a full spectrum conversion camera for like $40. $40. Even a poor homeless person could buy a full spectrum camera. So with the advent of super cheap full spectrum photography, videography equipment, and countless other trans-spectral, multi-frequency, phase variant recording devices and viewing devices, on and on, the exact opposite happened. Instead of like the realm of people that knew that disembodied beings, or what the conventional fool would call a ghost, they're just disembodied beings, just like a signal without a radio. Instead of just like a handful of people with the common sense to know that these things existed, now the people that didn't believe, which I don't care what anybody believes, once again, it's like, oh my God, I bought a full spectrum camera. It has exploded. Not my opinion, it's a fact. It's exploded. I predicted this over 20 years ago. I said to many people, I wasn't on YouTube then, with this technology becoming cheaper, the exact opposite is going to happen. That these, head up their backside academicians said, they were totally 180 degrees contrary to the facts. Now more people admit, like, wow, this video is undeniable. I mean, there is some fascinating video. There's plenty of hoax stuff and garbage out there still, but the real stuff is exploded, especially too with 24-hour recording equipment. Yeah, because stuff has gotten really cheap. There's a camera basically in every corner of every room of every house on Earth now, but not literally, but kind of close. So now everything is being watched, and people all of a sudden are like, oh my God, what's that? I find that hilarious. I knew I was 100% right 20-some years ago, and of course I was. And I knew those guys that I kept hearing from them, these pseudo-intellectual academicians, were 100% wrong, and I was also 100% correct. Anyway, the link to that article is below. The reason why I made this video is because an enormous amount of people want to discuss this topic. The article that I wrote below, the link, it is dry. It is informative, but it is dry. It's nothing, exhilarating. It's not meant to raise your blood pressure or something like that. It's meant to be a hyperlogical, wise approach to what is undeniable. Pure, disembodied subjectivity, which the wisest people that ever walked this earth, Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras, Plotinus, Numenius, Syrianus, Damascus, Iamblichus, way, way, way more intelligent and infinitely more wise than you, they acknowledged these subjects, disembodied beings. Do you think that you're more intelligent than them? You're not. You're absolutely not. And that's not an insult, it's a fact. Thanks. Goodbye.